I mean, of course, we need to have ideal customer profiles today. Do we still need them? Yes, of course we do. But how do we need them? And what do we need to include in them? Are some questions that we need to address. So, first, let's talk about how we're going to use them so that you know how or what information needs to be included in them. Now, what most people do when I see them come at me with their ideal customer profiles is they'll have a couple of pages or a slide deck with, an avatar picture, or maybe it's just sort of a generic picture of a couple of different people. And then they'll have things like, demographics and maybe job title, their role, responsibilities, and maybe what their goals are. And that's usually where it stops. If they start to get even more in depth, they might have, social media channels that they're active on, or resources that they actually would read or listen to, or podcasts and people that they follow. If it's a generational type of a role where, it's in a senior level executive of a family owned company, we can get into age ranges and generational types. Now, what that doesn't help us with is understanding how we're going to be able to educate a new salesperson on who our ideal customers are. It tells you a lot about who they are generically, but it doesn't tie into any of the trigger events that are happening for them. What is happening in their day-to-day at work that is a problem for them? And what's the impact of that problem? And how are they measured? What metrics do they need to be able to hit in order to be seen as successful in their roles? What's most important to them in their roles? Different levels of the organization care about different things. CEOs care about customer experience and the shareholder value and their legacy that they're leaving and the brand image that they're portraying. Whereas executive leadership care about strategies and execution of those strategies and bottom line numbers because that's how they're measured. Managers, salespeople, customer service people, all measured and focused on different things. So in your ideal seller profiles, how are you identifying what the trigger events are for them that causes issues and problems? And then here's the thing that is almost always missing from ideal customer profiles that drives me insane. And that is, what's the steps they have to go through in their decision-making process to purchase a solution or even recognize a problem? How do they recognize the problem? What do they call it? Who else do they confer with in their organizations about that? What kinds of conclusions do they typically come to? What types of gaps of information or stalls might they encounter? Who do they then need to go to in their organizations? What kind of vendors do they typically look at? What about the criteria that they consider? I can go on and on. But identifying both the trigger events that happen helps you to understand what the sales approach needs to be, what research and data that you need to be able to do on these companies to identify who good fit companies might be based on those trigger events. And then when you're looking at their buying journey or their profile of their buying journey and how it happens internally and at what point they bring in outside vendors, gives you an idea at what point or what things they've already gone through. And then questions and approaches that you can ask them about how they came to the conclusion of where they're at now, what options that they're considering, what led them to those options and conclusions, etc. So do we need profiles today? Absolutely, yes. How do we use them though? They're not just for marketing. They are absolutely a basis and foundational for salespeople, especially if you're bringing on new salespeople. Because what happens is you bring on a new salesperson and then you bring them into onboarding, and onboarding becomes all about me, my product, my features, my process. All of it is all focused on the company and the product. And they start off that way. And then they wonder why all of their customers are getting pitch slapped from their sellers, because what you teach them is what they're going to preach to them. So instead, start with your ideal customer profiles to educate your salespeople and immerse them into the world of their buyers. And you can't do that if you haven't identified trigger events, you haven't identified roles and metrics, industry trends, and what kind of approaches that they should be taking with these particular types of buyers so that they understand what they're walking into, who they're going to be conversing with. All right. I feel like I've gone on a rant today, Lou, but I think that we have a couple of comments here. Also, quick update on the book. Lou just reminded me. Thank you, Lou. I thank you all so much for asking. And if you go to my website now at unboundgrowth.com, you're going to see in the top right-hand corner, there's a link for you to sign up to be on the first to know email list for when things are going to be coming out for the book. And we've got some big things coming out this fall. We're going to have a new website that is going to be getting launched with additional resources there for you. We also are going to have some contests. We're going to have some games. We're going to have some worksheets and some downloads. And we're going to be doing some events. I'm already starting to line up some events around the country, hopefully across the pond, where we're going to be starting to dig into some of the concepts of the book and sharing you some highlights of it before it even comes out in the fall. And we're planning a big launch. Keep your fingers crossed at Inbound next year, everyone. So plans are in the works. We're having the conversations, and I can't wait to share with you all of the things that we've been working on. Christmas is coming early this year for me. So please make sure you check out the website. Sign up for our newsletter as well, because I'm sharing little bits of what we're putting into the book every month. And if you want to hear the first, you got to get on that list. So